hello and welcome to a very rambly, very fresh Hemm Productions podcast. Happy Thursday. It's been a very bad week for the world, with the tragedy at Bondi Beach and the tragic death of iconic director Rob Reiner and his wife in their home. And I'm in no way qualified to talk about this dreadful news. So instead, we will be looking inward, sending our thoughts and prayers to the loved ones of those people affected by these tragedies, and using movies to cope with them, of course. On this week's show, we're going to do a big new release catch-up, including fresh-ass takes on Avatar Fire and Ash, Hamnet, Zootopia 2, and probably a few more, depending on how tired I am. So we're going to skip the news again this week, get straight into the box office. Now, the box office in Australia keeps fucking breaking, as I always complain about. But I've got the weekend for December 4th to 7th, so this is last week's box office. I like to go through it because of interesting shit like this. Zootopia 2 is holding out at number 1, but Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is right behind it with 2.5 million American dollars. Right below that, you've got Wicked for Good, which is becoming probably one of the hits of the year. I think we'll have to look at the year's box office on next week's episode for Australia, because Wicked for Good is at 16 mil, which is very good. Number 4, we got Andrew Ryu's 2025 Christmas concert, Merry Christmas. That made just under 500,000 US dollars. We got Nuremberg at number 5, which jumped up a shit ton from last week. I imagine it played in limited release before then. Number 6 is Jujutsu Kaisen Execution, which actually looks like some kind of sick anime fucking movie, and it's made 48 million US dollars worldwide. Sony's releasing it. Maybe check that out. We got Durandar, which is a star-studded saga inspired by incredible true events in the gritty criminal vein of Underworld, with a backdrop of Indian patriotism. Interesting, 3.5 hour epic there. It's made $10 million worldwide, so a bit of a hit. We got Eternity, which I still haven't seen, which is an A24 comedy about the afterlife. Really looking forward to seeing that, actually. Number 9, we have Now You See Me, Now You Don't, which is dropped from number 3 all the way down to 9, and still hanging in there is Predator Badlands at number 10. Awesome, now we can just get into movies. So I've done a lot of movie catch-up the past couple weeks, and I managed to see Hamnet a bit early for Australia, which is really good, so I can talk about that. Caught up on Pixar's Elio, didn't think too much of it. Same with the horror film Drop, thought that was pretty bad. Quick thoughts on The Perfect Neighbor on Netflix, which is a body cam criminal investigation documentary that I found utterly compelling. It's about 90 minutes long, really enjoyed that. I watched Heart Eyes, the Valentine's Day horror movie from earlier in the year, and it was okay. I managed to see the oft-memed Ella McKay from James L. Brooks, and I liked it quite a bit, to be honest. But I don't think I'll get into full reviews here, just because there's a couple other movies I want to talk about a little more. What else have we here? Oh, Wake Up Dead Man, of course. Maybe we'll start there with Wake Up Dead Man, which is the new Knives Out movie. I'd just like to say that this movie feels very different. Each Knives Out movie really distinguishes itself from the last, where the first one is very much a costume drama whodunit in the classic vein. The second one, Glass Onion, is kind of exploring tech bros and all that kind of bullshit. This one is exploring religion, and I found it very compelling. The first hour has no Benoit Blanc in it. It is all headed by Josh O'Connor playing this lead priest character in this very Trumpian-like church, with Josh Brolin being a spouter of all sorts of bullshit in the church. And guess what? Eventually somebody is killed. The investigation goes ahead. I don't want to speak too much on this because I honestly don't have that many thoughts other than these movies are so consistently thrilling and fun to watch. I love all the ways this movie plays with faith. the idea of the unsolvable mystery. I think it was a very inspired coupling with a murder mystery story of a perhaps unsolvable crime. So very good, Wake Up Dead Man. Definitely recommend it. It's probably my least favorite of the three, but I still think it's very good. My biggest problems is some of the cast, very much wasted. I think it's probably the weakest cast out of all the movies, with characters like Andrew Scott just not doing it for me, and even Jeremy Renner. Quite a few actors in here that just not as distinct. I could tell you a lot about the characters in Glass Onion and the first Knives Out, but I couldn't tell you too much about these ones. So it's still good. It's still very, very good. I think this is easily like the best whodunit series that we've had in recent years, to be honest. And I hope they make much, much more. Next up, let's put a bullet into Hamnet. Now, if you haven't heard of Hamnet, this is a very Oscar-y movie. It's going to win a ton of Oscars this year, and so I knew I had to see it. It's by Chloe Zhao, a director I like very much, who made Eternals, but also the Best Picture winner Nomadland. She's made a lot of movies I like. This is a film about William Shakespeare, and my letterbox log was Shakespearean Rhapsody, because I find this movie very challenging, not because of how sad it is, but because of how sad they want to make you feel without earning it. I feel like a lot of this movie's emotional gut punches aren't very earned, and when your whole movie kind of is built around these emotional gut punches, the ones through the middle and through the end, second and third act, with a very slow beginning, very slow sort of character study without much revealing of the characters. I must say, the performance of Jessie Buckley is very good because she conveys so much of what her character is going through, some very tragic scenes. I don't want to spoil much of this movie for people, but there are a lot of dramatic birthing scenes, a lot of dramatic crying scenes. It is almost going into the melodrama category, but Jessie Buckley's performance does ground it in such a way that you're always engaged with her. Your emotional heartstrings are being tugged the whole time you're watching this damn movie. But I found myself very bored throughout the first half, and I found myself very confused by how Shakespeare was portrayed. To a point where it gets outright bad in some points, which is where my Shakespearean Rhapsody comment comes from. Some very on-the-nose dialogue, stuff you'd see in a music biopic towards Shakespeare, and they do that because they don't want to go too much in depth into Shakespeare. This isn't really his story, but they haven't fleshed out Jessie Buckley's character enough for it to be compelling riding all on her shoulders. This movie is so beautiful, but I wish it wasn't so stupid. It's pretty forced and contrived, and there's a lot of poor writing, and it's easy to notice that when your movie is about the greatest writer who ever lived. I think it's very compelling in the last half an hour until they play on the nature of darkness, and I was pulled sort of right out. There's just a lot of clunky devices used here that will completely work on some and really bounce off others. The entire conceit of the movie is that the death, spoiler alert, but it's actually factual history, the death of Hamnet, Shakespeare's son, one of his children, the death of that inspired Hamlet, and the way the movie explores it, and the way the movie hints to the connections there, I found quite dull, uninteresting, and unbelievable. So, unfortunately, I didn't really like Hamnet that much. I think it's beautifully shot and performed, other than Paul Mescal sometimes giving a little bit too much, I think. But yeah, no, it didn't really work for me, I gotta be honest. It bounced off the backboard a little bit. Just the whole concept and everything. I'm a huge Shakespeare fan, that's part of it, I'm sure. But I was a little disappointed here. I really wanted to love it, and I just thought it was okay. On a rewatch, honestly, I don't see this going up on a rewatch. I think it would even go down, if anything, because you just see how thin the characters and the writing really is. I think there's some really well done camera work, some really well done score and production design that, even though ultimately I was left cold by the movie, I'm welling up when watching it, and that's not easy to do, and the movie does it very well. A movie I think is more successful is Zootopia 2. I really don't have to spend too much time on Zootopia 2 because it kind of speaks for itself. The first Zootopia was just a knockout hit with kids, critics alike, a very vibrant, fun world where, animals kind of rule the place. It's like Animal Society, but similar to BoJack Horseman. And in this one, it's about animal racism. And I found the story to be very sweet and compelling. This is really a buddy romance comedy crime caper movie between, who are our characters? Judy and Nick. Of course, yeah, Judy and Nick have this ongoing budding romance throughout the movie, along with a plot that involves lots of snakes, lots of explosions, and lots of mad dashes through the city. I just don't think you can go to this movie and not enjoy yourself. It's zippy fun and there's no point where you feel bored or talked down to. I think it's such a good bounce back for Disney after some miserable movies they've released recently. Specifically Disney Animation, whose last film I believe was Wish. No, it cannot be Wish. It was something else that wasn't too good. Anyway, I didn't really do my research. But it's a nice bounce back for Zootopia and for Disney. And I think it's a lot better than what Pixar put out this year. So I got to do that direct comparison. Disney's kind of winning against Pixar at the moment, which is a shame to see. But yeah, Zootopia 2 is a flat out recommend. Not a masterpiece by any means, but I liked it more than the original. I think it improves upon it in every way and just looks great. But I saved the best for last, because speaking of movies that look great, Avatar, Fire and Ash. I just saw this fucking last night, and I'm a huge Avatar fan. I loved the first one, and I thought the second one was even better. And this one really feels like the part 2 to that film. It's not quite The Empire Strikes Back. When I was watching it, I was thinking, is this the Avatar franchise's Return of the King? Is this the culmination of it all? And by the end of the film, it doesn't feel like it's the culmination of it all. It's the culmination of an arc, that's for sure. But it is more of a Two Towers kind of situation, ultimately. I think the biggest problem, we'll get out the gate a little negative, biggest problem is it kind of repeats a lot of what was in The Way of Water. Now, The Way of Water was unique because it had this 12-year gap between it and the original, and there was so much hype going in, and it really was a fresh splash of water in your face, literally. And nothing changes, nothing in Avatar Fire and Ash hits as hard as when you first got to the water scenes in The Way of Water. But there is incredible action. There is incredible storytelling. I found myself very moved by this movie, which begins as an exploration of grief and sort of charting your own path in this world and finding your way to move on from tragedy. And all this while you're under attack, while they're suffering through this war. And I kept watching this movie and just thinking to myself, remember how many people made fun of friggin' Jake Sully in that first movie? But here I am fucking caring about the Sully family dynamics and whether Jake Sully is being a good parent. I've become really compelled, and there are lots of scenes in this movie that provide that compelling back and forth. The sort of closing arc of the movie, I feel, is the relationship between the sergeant and with Jake Sully, who in the last movie found himself going more native. The sergeant, the corporal? What the fuck's his name? Quaritch. Corporal Quaritch finds himself going more native and meeting the Ash people. And the Ash people, this is not as much of a change of race. We're not going inside volcanoes like we went inside the water in Way of Water. But the character playing fucking Varang is her name. What's that? Ona Castillo Chaplin. Is she? Yep, member of the Chaplin family. Anyway, she is brilliant as Varang, the new villain in this movie. There's a lot of cool villain dynamics in this movie. And by the time you get to the last act, which, yes, does repeat some of the elements of The Way of Water, the big ocean battles with the whales is kind of repeated. And I've seen some reviews call this out as circling the drain. I see this more as closing the arcs that were open in that movie while still leaving great runway for the next few movies, depending on how many we get. And I'm beating around the bush here because I've just been talking about story in a friggin' Avatar movie because I'm connected to this shit now. And where is my damn review? Yeah, so come for the blue people, stay for the family. I can't believe how much I care about the Sully family at the end. The intricacies of space racism and identity run throughout the movie, but they aren't beaten over your head. And it wouldn't be an Avatar movie if it didn't have action and visuals that slap so hard it leaves a red handprint for days afterwards on your face. And the second act climax specifically is a cathartic, explosive peak of the franchise for me. And something that I really haven't seen for the franchise, which is kind of the Avatars bringing the fight to the humans a little more. Won't say any more than that. And that phone link notification has reminded me that it's probably time to end this episode. I think Avatar Fire and Ash fucks so hard. I think it's the best implementation of the 3D that they've had so far, with the action just feeling so dynamic. It does help that I've seen it on an IMAX screen, but the tension and battles between the fire and ash people and the water people, yeah, there's a lot to love here. It's a lot of space gobbledygook, but with a lot of heart, and it just looks fantastic. I love James Cameron's filmmaking sensibilities. He just knows how to block and make a scene epic. And there are so many scenes in this movie, even if I wasn't as blown away as the last movie, I do ultimately think Way of Water is better than this. There's still so much here that left my jaw on the floor. It's a fucking Avatar movie, and it came just 3 years this time instead of a whole 12 years, and I loved it. I really loved it. I think it should win Oscars. I think this is a peak for the franchise in a way. I think it's a peak of the storytelling of the franchise, if not the visuals, which is funny because I've seen the very opposite sentiment shared online. But I truly do think this is a great emotional climax and has some great action too. So yeah, Avatar Fire and Ash, surprise, surprise, fucks so hard. That'll do it for the Hemm Productions podcast this week. Talk about a bunch of new releases. I was going to talk about some of my friends and family's favorite movies this week, but I kept asking people and they kept giving me boring answers. I'll just share a quick shout out to, if they're listening, Tobin's favorite movie of the year is In the Lost Lands by Paul W.S. Anderson. Next week is Christmas, but I'm still going to release an episode. I'm pre-recording my 25 for 25, the 25 best movies of the century so far. A good way to end the year. And what else can I talk about on that episode? Whatever I see. I don't think I'll have much to see in between now and then, other than a bunch Avatar, maybe one or two more times. Maybe I'll have new Avatar takes. Thank God they pulled it off. I was so worried. We had such a terrible week, and I was like, if Avatar's bad, I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna cry all day. Anyway, this was fun. Thanks for fucking chilling out with me, and I'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.